in one of the videos I uploaded last night, and I've only got about 15 minutes, so that's why I just like popped it up on the YouTubes and decided to just get it taken care of because this is prep day. So I've got a lot of work I need to do, and I've already been doing things. The picture for the live stream is a blackberry pie that I made from blackberries that Pastor and I picked last summer. And we put that in the freezer, and it's been sitting there for, a couple of months. And I've got a terrible habit of growing stuff, putting it in the freezer, thinking, it's easy to use, and I'm gonna definitely use this stuff, and this is the way to do it, versus say can it or whatever, just so quick and easy, and pop it in the thing. And then sometimes I don't get to it, and it's 3 years, 4 years later, and I end up feeding it to the chickens or something. Shalom, y'all. Shalom. So I saw the blackberries. Because of the cold, we've been eating a lot of stuff from the freezer, got down to the blackberry level, and thanks for the thumbs up. And don't forget to say shalom, y'all. There's Ingrid's Kitchen Garden. Good morning from Oregon. Anyway, I decided, good morning, Grace Acres. Or, yeah, it's still morning-ish, noonish. Shalom. Anyway, I want to make a pie or can make some jam out of the berries, and it just seemed easier to do the pie. So I have like 3 or 4 old cookbooks and new cookbooks and in-betweeny cookbooks. This is one of the ones I use, Pots, Pans, and Pioneers. Lost Light, shalom. That's what the front looks like. And it's got some good recipes in it. Their hot roll recipe and the yeast roll recipe, and like the bread. I've got a star by the bread recipe because it's actually really easy to make, and it's good too. Anyway, so I whipped together that pie. That's what's on the cover. But the reason I'm doing the live stream is because on my drive, I was listening to a podcast by Shalom from North Idaho. I will catch the replay. It'll be short too, Hunter. I've got a timer. I've got like 12 minutes before, so I need to check on some chicken in the oven and stuff like that. I also have the really old Fanny Farmer cookbook, and I have a really modern Fanny Farmer cookbook, but I think it's up in High Prairie Acres. Anyway, the podcast that I put on the community part of my channel with Neo Amish, I think it's his 3rd podcast, so I guess he hasn't been doing podcasts for long. Young man, and then Stacey Zvicki, who I've known for several years. She's a believer, and she lives in Wisconsin, and he had her as a guest on his podcast, and the link is in that community post on the channel. I posted it because it's an exceptional podcast. It's an hour long, and I listened to it in the car. But the thing about it is, Stacey knows a lot about farming. She is does a community supported agriculture farm. She has 10 years experience. Because of her circumstances, she has needed to have production that made money for her. She mentions it a couple times during the podcast that her husband has Lyme disease, and so he's limited as to the kind of things he can do, and that puts some responsibility on her for helping with supporting their farm. And her early videos are just, I was just taken by how hardworking she is and how honest she is. She's just straight out tells you all this stuff about herself and what's happened to her in her life and how she came to the faith and so on. And just excellent tips on her gardening techniques. Because she's in Wisconsin and she talks about it, very unique circumstances with the cold and the moisture and so on. But she's overcome it all. The one video I really, she won my respect with was she makes almost everything. Hey, Mark Chase, shalom. I planted blackberries last year, hoping I get berries this year. The berries we have grow wild here. That was a blessing, and part of the reason we bought the property. Anyway, she makes almost all of her feed for her animals from stuff she produces on the land. Hey, Lone Star Living, shout out, Neo Pioneer. I was thinking about you when I did that video on pruning the trees, by the way. Oh, look, he did the fire one. Nice. Woo! He gets his, there's some emojis that you guys can use. One of them's shalom, one of them's fire, and the other one might be amen. I forget. Anyway, and now I'll probably break my own word and I'll probably go turn off the chicken and the water and come back and talk for a little while. Back to Stacey. She has a channel called Sustainable Stewards. And that channel is mostly her techniques about farming and how she does like hay bale row crops, where she puts her old hay in these rows on top of the ground, and it composts down and she plants in the row. She does how to grow, I think it might be microgreens, but it might be cabbage, something like that, claiming a part of your yard and using a heavy duty plastic tarp to kind of kill the weeds, soften the ground, and then you plant on top of that. She has a like Quonset hut type barn. Shalom, Sarah Hoskins. Someone else. Oh, you were on Bear's morning brief. Yeah, I saw you or heard him say hello to you, Sarah, on his morning brief the other day. I thought he did a good job that day too. I was going to do a little talk about that here, and then I realized like I didn't make notes, but I thought the intel that he was giving. Hey, Age, shalom, brother. G'day. Cheers. The intel that he was giving on that brief, whoever gathers that for him, drunken monkeys, I forget what he calls them, dancing monkeys, they did a nice job. It was a lot of variety about different countries and their leaders and what they were doing and COVID. So, Sarah, I remember you from that. So he does a great job every day. Yeah, he's got those dancing monkeys or whatever he calls them, gathering the bits of news that is worthy. They do a good job. Anyway, Stacey has a barn that I think she showed the outside. It looks more like a Quonset hut, maybe like a great big hoop coop. Dance monkeys. There you go. And she keeps all her animals in there in the winter, her cattle, her goats, her sheep, her chickens. And hey, strange guys, 1111, Stephen Wilson. Shalom, Stephen Wilson. Shout out to you being a supporter of the channel, Stephen. Thank you for your super chat donations. Appreciate it. There's the Red Tower. Welcome. Technically, I only have 7 minutes, but I guess I'm going to go a little bit longer. And that's my own limit. I've got a timer going over here for these things I need to check on real quick. Anyway, in her big barn thing, she puts, I think, straw on the bottom, and then all the animals can sleep in it, and they obviously go to the bathroom in it, but it keeps them dry. And the composting manure inside the Quonset hut also helps keep those animals warm in the Wisconsin winters, which, she tells you on her videos, but it gets really cold up there at times. She's unrelenting in her honesty about running a farm. She does not get emotionally attached to her animals. Her animals are not pets because she has to help support the family from what she's producing. And so she had a milk cow, an older milk cow, who I forget what she said was wrong with her. Maybe she stopped milking. Shalom, welcome. Or she got lame, something. And so she had her butchered, and she talked about, like, we are going to use, the meat from her butchering for multiple purposes. And I forget exactly what it all was. I don't remember if she said she was going to use it for feed or for her family, or if she was going to sell it. But that's not me. I'm a little too tenderhearted for that, unless I knew the cow I had was specifically going to be used for food, and then I would try not to get emotionally attached. But her her knowledge is just really good. And so this podcast, Neo Amish and her, is really good information on it. Hey, Sergeant James, I was thinking about you when I was setting up this tripod. I was like, I wonder if Sergeant James is going to make the live feed today. Because sometimes you don't, time difference, you don't always get to do it. So I'm glad you made it. Yeah, the podcast is in the community section of my channel, the one I'm talking about. He also gives the impression that he knows a bit about farming. Now, I don't know this person. If it's his third podcast, he's probably new, at least to podcasting. But their conversation is very informational about food production in the U.S. And they talk about many different things. He knows a lot about the economic side, like meat producers versus the middlemen who are, maybe running the grain. Oh, I forget what they call that, where they finish them off in a confined area and they feed them a lot of grain. And then once they get really fattened up and, that marbling that Americans like, then they ship them off to the slaughterhouse. And then the slaughterhouse sends the meat to the packaging. He knows a lot about that supply chain, and so does Stacey. And so they discussed last year where there were shortages of things and the prices of things went up. And because Stacey also works in the dairy production, she works for a dairy farmer, and she's pretty, she's not the kind of person who just comes to work and does the job. She's going to talk to the person she works for. Hey, get away from that pie. And she's going to pay attention. Like she said, she pays attention when she's at work too. And she said last year, when there were shortages of things like beef and hamburger, and the price went from $2.99 a pound up to $8 a pound, it was all artificially created for the sake of COVID. Like COVID was the excuse used for shortages in I think they tried to say that beef slaughterhouses or packaging places had a lot of COVID cases and then they shut down. And so there was a shortage. And she said that's not true. And so did he. She said there were many other plants that could do that kind of production, and they just didn't for like 3 weeks. And her, the dairy farmer she works for, she let us in on a little secret. You guys, I'm going to leave for just a minute and then I'll come back to the secret. Hold on. I've got water boiling that I have to turn off and check some chicken, and you're going to hear that alarm thing go off. Give me a second. I'm back. It's a good thing I checked. The chicken wasn't done, but the water was. Hey, and feel free to comment. I don't see a single comment on here. Most people only shop at the big box stores. I love my local grocery. Life interruptus. Everything he's saying is exactly what I've learned to be true in my research. Good job, strange guys. We interrupt for a bit of life. That's kind of ironic, isn't it? Okay, so her secret, and maybe you guys knew this, but I didn't, is that old dairy cows, old milk cows are then, when they don't, for whatever reason, they're not giving enough or whatever, they're too old, they are what hamburger is made out of. Not just your big fat Angus cattle that you see on commercials and everything else. The dairy cows are made into that hamburger that's probably the high fat content, the, what is it, 2080 or whatever. And then your Angus, really nice ones are probably sold to restaurants and are your ribeyes and your more expensive cuts. And I don't know that exactly, but I do know she said that dairy cows are made into hamburger. And so her dairy farmer regularly sells his older cows. This is just part of the whole system to the producers and the slaughterers and the whoever. And that for those 3 weeks last year, or maybe it was 2020, they weren't buying any. People just stopped buying it. I'm in a farming Amish community, so we get our meat really local. Grace Acres, you are you're lucky, and then, or you're smart. And there's Auntie Pam. Hello. I like to shop local, right? The best thing, of course, is growing it yourself. But if you can't, at least you can see how your animals are being treated. And I'm not saying the Amish baby their animals. I don't think they do. I don't think you got the Wagyu beef going on there where they're like, massaging these cattle every day and bathing them in milk like they do in Japan. I think the Amish are pretty straightforward. They make sure the things are fed, and if they have a medical problem they can deal with in a natural Amish way, they probably take care of it. But if it's an animal that's given them a pain in the rear end, they probably butcher that thing. Anyway, so the podcast is really good. I'm highly recommending it. I'm kind of telling you, the content of it because there is a lot of information, and both of the people are not knowledgeable, especially Stacey, because she still runs a community supported agriculture farm. I'd take bison over Wagyu any day. Well, and I do. I buy bison meat when it's available in my area because one, I want to support the people who are raising bison in America. I have a video. You guys probably, man, I should post links when I talk about my videos, but you can search for it in the search engine on the channel about bison and my ideas for bison. Bison used to be in the East Coast. It used to be all the way across the country. I think there were even some kind of bison in Europe, and they were a different variety. They're all gone now. Native Americans who have their own reservations, I think they should be raising bison and elk and pheasant and everything else. They've got, acres of land that's specifically for their tribe. And that's, if you have land, I think you should be raising bison or elk or deer, stuff that's native to this area. Just because it's probably going to be easier for you to raise it than having to go through all the things that are required by, a specialty cow, the worming and the bathing and the dusting and this stuff. I have a pound or two of bison burger in my freezer. There you go. Okay. Now, my daughter works on the farm, and we know how the beef are treated and we raise our own chickens. Right. I mean, in an Amish community, they're not hiding anything. You're going to see them out doing things like tilling their soil and cutting down their crops and working their horses and everything. It's not being hidden behind huge fences or long distances like industrial farms with big buildings that you never get to see inside of. So the reason for my live stream is to recommend that podcast. It's on the community section of the page. Sister Kate Shofar Mountain. Across the top, there's little headings, and one of them says home and one says videos, community, membership, blah, 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 blah. Click on the community one, and that's where you guys can post too. I'm almost certain that you can post in the community section, and if you can't, you certainly can comment. The last time you recommended a podcast, it was well worth the watch. Thanks, Aid. And there's the Greek homestead. How do you say hi in Greek? I would love to know that. I enjoy the chicken personalities also. I watch them interact. Yeah, and I posted a notice on Instagram for this live stream, and I just walked outside and took a picture of one of my roosters. It's a rooster that a sister near here, Melissa, gave me because she just couldn't stand to butcher him. He was so pretty. And she's like, here you go. If you want to eat him, you can. I'm like, oh, gosh darn, he is really pretty. Okay, how do I make this work? I already had a rooster. I have a big red rooster. He is, a mixed breed big red rooster, and he's healthy, and he's been taking care of the girls for a couple of years now. And so I thought, oh, well, he's getting older. I'll just replace him with this younger guy. And then when I put them together, the red rooster beat him up. And I'm like, okay, maybe he's not as old and crippled as I think. And so Yasu, Yasas. Is that the correct pronunciation? Yasas? Yasu? I'm new to this. Is my first full years with animals. How many animals do you have? I'll get my chair and enjoy the show. That's exactly what I do, Grace Acres. When you guys see me posting from the orchard, it's because I go down and just watch my ducks. They are my stress relief, and we get along all right. And I really, 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 here's a little channel secret I'll let you guys know. I really want to get a picture of when I open the door, a couple of them fly over my head. I've just started freeze drying. Sounds like bison and elk should be in the harvest right rotation. When I open the door of that hoop coop, there's a couple of ducks who fly over my head. Well, with an American accent, but yes, Yasu. How, Yasu? Could you phonetically, I would love to, if you could phonetically spell out how it might be pronounced, because I know I have an flat American accent. My daughter wants ducks, but I'm not ready yet. The thing about ducks is they are very messy. And so it's not recommended, although lots of people do it, to keep ducks and chickens together, because the ducks have in their system, it's probably the staph, what do you call it? Staph bacteria that can carry that. And if the chickens drink the water that the ducks have dirtied, it can make the chickens unable to lay eggs. So what I do is I keep them separate. As you've seen, there's a chicken coop that's on one side of the property, and that orchard with the duck area is on a completely separate part of the property because they require a lot of water. And that's one reason I built the little coop down there that I did. It has the plastic roofing that runs this way, not this way, vertical, not horizontal, so the rain comes off and I catch it in all those bins and stuff. Saying hello, say Yasu, pronounce it Yasu. This is a phrase best suited for informally saying hello. Wait, no, I don't want to do that. Formally saying hello to one person. How do you know that, Sergeant James? Yasu. Yasu. Yasu, y'all. Yasu, Greek homestead. Anyway, that's why I've got the ducks and the hens separate. Now, some of the good things about ducks is if you let them roam in your garden, they don't tend to destroy the plants like chickens do, and they are bug eaters like chickens, and they'll eat things like slugs, and chickens may not. Something else I realized about ducks this winter was they're winter hardy versus the chickens. The chickens can get like a Sergeant James went to Google. Good for you. The chickens get like a frostbite on their feet and on their combs and stuff. It's black when their combs get frostbitten, and the ducks didn't seem to have any problem with it at all. And you can get duck varieties like the pekin, which is meant to be a meat bird. It gets pretty big, so if you wanted to eat it, you're getting meat for your money. Excuse me. And then there are several varieties that'll lay eggs for you, like the khaki Campbells I got this year are supposed to be good egg layers and good hatching chicks. And Muscovy ducks, which I'm sure it's a Russian variety, are the weird ones, have this weird red and they're black and white, are the same. Good egg layers, good moms. And duck curry tastes delicious, but I haven't, well, I've butchered one or two ducks, and I actually did make curry this past Sukkot, and everybody loved it with the duck. So that's what I like about them. They're just different from the chicken. It's another dimension to your farm to have them, but they have to have water, and they need soft places to walk, which is a really good segue for something I did. Give me one more minute, you guys. I'm going to go snatch something. Here it is. The ducks really need a soft place to walk. It's not good to have your ducks on like a concrete floor or on gravel or anything hard like that. It's much better if they can be on something soft like grass or peat moss or straw, because their feet really are meant for, being in the water. And so they can cut their feet if they're on stuff that's too hard, and then they get a thing called bumblefoot. Now, it's also something that chickens can get in the same kind of circumstances. I think Wes S. channel has a video, excellent video, on he and his wife taking care of a chicken with bumblefoot, and they live in Texas, where I guess it's really thorny, and the chicken got some sort of break in its skin. I had to buy little protective pads for some of my hands because the rooster's claws were that big. The Greek helps them making a video. Make a video, post it to your channel, share the link to the community section here. That's a really good suggestion. Anyway, they did a really good version of that. And then there's a duck heavy channel, something Gold Homestead up north. He lives in like Vermont or something. He did a video on operating on a bumblefoot too. And then I have a couple goat head thorns. Those are those really tiny ones that just stick. Put more emphasis on the yaw. Hang on. Hey, where'd you go? Put more emphasis on the yaw and not so much on the sue. Yasu. Goldshot Farm. That's it when I start living. Yeah, they did a video on it. And then I had a couple of videos, I think it was last year. Shalom, Bad Wabbit. May even been the year before, on a duck that I had. And my daughter and I, when we first encountered bumblefoot, we really tried, but we were afraid of hurting the duck. And so we lost like 2 ducks to bumblefoot, because what it is it's an infection in their foot that's going to go systemic if you don't stop it. And it's basically like a pimple. And so she and I were too tender, and you have to squeeze it and get the head out of it. And so after losing a duck to that, I had another duck who had it, that black one with the white collar on her neck. And I said, nope, I'm not losing another duck to this thing. I am going to operate on it. And I also moved them. That was one reason I moved them from where they were at the pond down to the orchard, because they have to cross a road with very hard stone, and they were getting the bumblefoot from it. So I just squeezed the heck out of her foot, and she had 3. Hey, Soapy Acres Homestead, nice to see you too. I haven't tried your goat soap yet. I tucked it away because it's like, oh, it's a valuable thing, and I put it with the other soaps people have given us, and I go through them as I use them, but we don't use soap much between the two of us, and so I forget that it's back there. And you did such a great job on it. I just want to let you know that. Okay, so back to the bumblefoot. I think I got 3 heads out of that black duck's foot, but it saved her life. And after that, it was like, boo, light bulb. Darn, gotta go. Catch you on the replay. Be blessed. Thanks for stopping by, Red Tower. So I had a chicken limping around. One of my little Buff Orpingtons, so cute, and they're just now starting to lay eggs. We got a little teeny tiny egg from one of them. I might be able to go grab that too. Bumblefoot sucks. You should get it out. I can always send more, Soapy Acre said. Well, you don't have to right now. You guys have been so nice to me. I've also got a skincare thing that someone else sent me, Pereira last name. It's in my cupboard, and I haven't opened it yet. I think it's for itchy skin, so it'll be summertime. Anyway, the little chicken had a bumblefoot, and it was a big one. Like I could actually see on her foot this huge mound. So I told myself, all right, you got to take care of that. So I got all my supplies. I got my spray and like a razor blade in case I needed it. And I put gloves on and I got her last night. And I'm going to show you this thing because it was amazingly huge. What I squeezed out, I even saved it because I thought I was going to show it in a video. Look at how big that is. That is a huge, like that's the size of what? It's bigger than a pea. It's a little bit smaller than a grape. I mean, it is, that's what was in her foot. And her foot wasn't that big, and that's why she was limping around. And I had to, the thing on the side of it, I mean, it's disgusting. I know this is the head of it. Like she had that black spot in between her toes. Like if that was her foot, it was right here. And it was this huge bump. And so you just rip that off. It comes off because it's not really attached to her skin. And then you have to squeeze like you do a pimple. You really have to push and get that out. And it left that big of a hole in her foot. And I'm like, yeah, no wonder you were limping. That's nasty. And that is what will continue to just spread and get into their blood system and then be in their system and kill them. So you got it. When you have bumblefoot, you have to take care of it. But if you do, yeah, it's massive. Yeah. But if you do take care of it, then they will heal. And so like one of the things I'll have to do today is just go check her foot. I did put a Band-Aid on it last night, but she's probably gotten it off by now. And like probably wash it and spray it again with that red wound spray or purple wound spray. Let me get a bottle of that so I can show you what that is. Oh, here we go. Oh. See if I can find that tea egg. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, you can tell I'm a little ADHD because it keeps popping up down. That is the spray that I use for wounds. There's also one that's called Blue Coat that's very similar. I also have Vetericin, which was pretty expensive. It's supposed to be able to, use on any animal. And I don't have that right here. Then I have that tiny, here's your regular chicken egg. This is probably like a 1-year-old chicken. Here's what your baby chicken's eggs are going to look like when they just start laying them. They're really tiny comparatively. So if you get these, your little ones, like the ones you raised from chicks last year, are starting to lay the eggs. And then they eventually get up to bigger. Shalom sister, I'm late. Washing curtains today. Wood burners are great, but dust and smoke not so great. No, they do actually put out a lot of dust and smoke. Grace Acre says Blue Coat, purple stuff works great. Mayhem Country Living, long time no see. Have used it myself many, many times. This is way off topic, but I actually used that Blue Coat on a cut I got on my knee like 2 summers ago. I fell on those really sharp rocks in our driveway and really gashed my knee. I'm not going to show you my knee, but I mean, it was a gash about that long and I should have had stitches, and I knew it. I looked at it and said, yep, they would stitch that. And I said, I'm gonna do the sister thing. I'm gonna experiment with this spray, which I have used multiple times. As a matter of fact, I have a story about that. Let me put these eggs down. I had a baby goat up in High Prairie Acres. Got 2 minutes before I have to check that chicken again. And that baby goat, the way I had food was I had the rebar panels that looked like the fence panels, the cattle panels, and I would put the food behind it. Is that right? I think that's how this happened. And so this baby goat had somehow, there was an end of the panel sticking, not out, but like it's behind or in front of another panel. So it's sticking, and somehow she impaled her eye on that. Like was stuck with that thing in her eye, screaming her head off. And so I ran down there and I gently pulled her off of that rebar, and I grabbed the purple stuff and I sprayed all around her eye. Like it says don't use internally or anything, but I mean, she actually had a puncture wound there. And so I just sprayed the snot out of the eye, and I think I covered it. I think I remember covering it at least for, as long as she would leave the Band-Aid on. And by the next day, her eye was healing. And about a week and a half later, her eye healed and she could see again. And I'm like, what? Like her eye was intact. So I don't know if it poked her eye to the side, maybe the actual eyeball over, and was only in part of her socket. But that purple stuff worked really good. And it's also worked, and I know, gosh, this has turned into such a gross live stream, sorry. It actually worked on the billy goat who was caught in crossfire when dogs were attacking our goats and had a wound in his back leg that was probably from a gunshot. Big old little wound on the front end of his leg, big old hole on the back end. And I sprayed that thing every day with that blue coat for a good month and a half, and he would lick it off, and I would spray it and he would lick it off, and eventually that leg healed too. So the goat's eye, the billy goat's leg, and my knee, it works. It works. I just can't talk about that medicine enough. All right, so I've got to go, guys. I really do have to finish with my prep day stuff. I appreciate y'all being here. Check out the podcast. They talk about economics of food production. Stacey is super knowledgeable about big production on a small farm. She has excellent techniques. She has a channel, Sustainable Stewards, and she is a believer. She's a Hebrew roots lady, and I believe she has a separate channel for that and her politics, and I think she calls it Battle Axe. I haven't been there in a while, just because, but Sustainable Stewards has a lot of really good information, and that podcast I think is worth watching, and I appreciate y'all being here. Look at, if it's not my rooster fighting, it's been hens with slight respiratory infections. I haven't lost one yet. You have to be careful with your chickens that you have enough bedding and stuff on the floor wherever they are, and they are overcrowded, because they will get respiratory infections if their droppings are just without anything on it. So put grass, straw, chips, something, but not the cedar chips. I could keep a couple bottles of purple and blue in our pet kit. It's better than Daikin solution. I haven't tried Daikin solution, but I swear by it. Mayhem Country Living. Cold. Oh, and there's a thing called Vet RX. That's a respiratory oil you put in your chicken's mouth. It's kind of like having Vicks Vapor Rub for chickens. Is it okay for fowl? Yes, I use it on my ducks. It's amazing how they heal. It sure is. How to better treat the animal's injury. Happy prep day. Happy prep day too, Cassie. Wife of Narrowgate Homestead. I recently had an old hen, horrible fungus on her feet and legs. They swelled up, turned white, and had large flakes. It was some kind of mites. Yeah, sometimes mites will also be around their vent, and like if you like try to look at their skin and move the feathers around, you'll see them at the base of their feathers. You can treat mites, I believe, with diatomaceous earth. My daughter just treated her chickens because they got mites from the one that fell off the chicken truck. Hey, Caleb. Hey, Bad Rabbit. Thanks for stopping by, you guys. Thank you, Sergeant James. I think you need to become a moderator. Let's see if I can dub that on you. I haven't shut this down yet. Come on. I'm supposed to be able to do this like touching your thing there. Why is that not happening? A blessed day. Sounds good. Hi, Ledwin Mayor. I'm shutting it down. Treat with vinegar. You could try that too. Purple spray for most stuff. Hey, Westhold. Thanks for coming by. Supposed to be a short one. All right. Bless you all. Shalom. Watch the podcast. I think you'll like it.